Here's how to use OBS Studio step by step in our complete and updated OBS Studio tutorial for beginners. OBS, or Open Broadcaster Software, is a powerful free live streaming software that really packs a punch, so it can be difficult to jump into, but don't worry. This OBS tutorial will get you up to speed really fast. So here we are in OBS. I'm going to take you through this walkthrough using a Mac, but the process is exactly the same if you're on a PC as well. Now this is a brand new fresh install of OBS, so this is what you'll see if you've never opened the app before. The big black box here in the middle is your preview area. This is where you can see what it is you're going to be broadcasting out. Down the bottom here, we've got our controls. This is where we can start streaming, start recording. We can switch between this preview mode and studio mode. So if I press on this now, you can see that we have our program monitor, which is what we're pushing out. This is exactly the same as what you were seeing before, but now we've actually got a preview as well. Now it is a little confusing because the other side's called preview mode and this is the preview here. We can queue things up on this side, and then when we press this transition button here, then it will actually
Let me show you exactly. Exactly how to use OBS Studio from scratch, and I'll cover everything you see inside of OBS Studio that you need to know if you're trying to stream online or if you're trying to record a gameplay or your screen. And OBS Studio, if you've never heard of it before, is a free application. You could download it for Windows PC. It works on Mac and Linux. And again, it's used for video recording. You could record a camera, for example, like what I'm doing here. You could record a webcam. You could live stream to any platform. It live streams to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, pretty much any platform. I'll show you the full list when we jump in. And you could basically use OBS Studio's advanced options too to basically create a virtual studio. And you just need this free app to do it. There are some more advanced things, some other things that I recommend if you're trying to take this to the next level. But for beginners, you don't need anything but OBS Studio. I'll mention some useful things and I'll link everything in the description to make it easy to find. Let's jump in. Now to get started with OBS Studio, make sure you have the latest version of the official app. They've had a lot of changes recently, so I'm updating this video because of that. And once you do install it, this is basically the interface of OBS. So I'll briefly explain what you're looking at here, but I want to really dive into how to set it up, and then I'll show you exactly what you're looking at as we go along. But at a brief glance, right here is basically where your stream or your video recording is going to show, right over here. This is your canvas. And down here, you have these things called scenes. I'll go in more detail on what these are. Sources are basically different camera angles you could add to it, images, different video clips. all kinds of different sources could be added here. I'll explain this as well. This is your audio mixer. So what you see here is the level from my microphone. Scene transitions I'll explain as well. And this is your control. So if you start streaming, this is where you would click once you set it up. There are some settings you need to know about before you do that. Same with recording, same with studio mode. So we'll explain that in the settings, but I'll get to that in a second. Right now, the very first thing I typically like to go over is these things called scenes. Now, what scenes are, basically you could have many different scenes and they could each be for a specific purpose. For a long time, I only had one scene that had multiple sources inside of it. But I'll show you how to make a second scene in a second. But right now, by default, you will have something called a scene. So what you could do is you could rename this scene, right? So what am I recording here? I'm gonna do a screen capture tutorial. Let's say that's the kind of scene I wanna build. Let's say if it was a gameplay, you would just name it whatever this is going to be as your scene. The second step you wanna set up is the source. So let me go ahead and click on the plus sign here. These are all the different sources that you could actually add. So you could, for example, have an image that's part of your scene. You could have a video capture device. That's basically your webcam or a camera I'm using here. You could record your screen. So screen capture, I'm on a Mac here. So it says Mac OS screen capture. On older OBS, it was just called display capture. So if you have an older version of OBS, you have display capture. And you could set one of these or multiple different layers to it. So let me show you exactly how this works. I'm gonna go ahead and do a video capture device. That's gonna be the webcam that's gonna kick on. And you could name any one of these. So this is This is going to be my IMAX camera. For preset, you want to choose high here. So I'm going to leave your window. Do this way. Okay. Now, let me show you how to add another source. I'm going to press the for applications. I'm going to just capture the whole screen here. And it's going to be the built-in display resolution. And you could show the cursor or not. I always choose to show it if I'm doing some kind of demonstration. And I could press OK right over here. Now, if it doesn't quite fit, sometimes it's going to be much, much bigger like this. You'll need to kind of drag in the corners here and make sure it fits this canvas. So these red lines are going to show you that it's going to fit the canvas like this. So now I'm behind here. So if I turn off the capture, I'm behind it, and this is on top of it. So if I wanted to put myself on top, I could grab myself and put it on the top here. So it becomes a top layer like this. Now the screen is behind me. The useful thing when you do that is you could do this thing called picture in picture. So you could shrink yourself down. You could put yourself right in the corner. It has this weird picture in picture effect. I'm behind here. So if I turn off the capture, I'm behind it, and this is on top of it. So if I wanted to put myself on top, I could grab myself and put it on the top here. So it becomes a top layer like this. Now the screen is behind me. The useful thing when you do that is you could do this thing called picture in picture. So you could shrink yourself down. You could put yourself right in the corner. It has this weird picture in picture effect because of the way I'm capturing the screen, but I could just turn this off right over here. So you get the idea. Basically, that screen is going to show up in the background. Right now, OBS is open, so that's what it's showing. And I'm here in the corner. So this is a useful double. Lot of tutorials, for example, gameplays will utilize an option like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn myself off too because I want to show you audio mixer here. Now with audio mixer, things once begin. The general tab up next, sound mixer, is beyond just under properties, because the built-in microphone on any computer just doesn't sound that great. So I recommend you check that out, and I'll link that below. You could get it from Amazon. So I would set that up next, and I'll show you some more audio. You need to do, unless in the record compatible with, and as long now your hotkey you may have to worry about going to be a presentation. I'm going to set a video source again, so that's under video capture device. Then that's going to be my webcam again. I'm going to press OK. I'm going to save that, and my device is going to be again, I could add their feed. I'm going to go ahead and kind of bring this down, shrink this down, and I'll need to change the order. So if I bring the video behind that one, it has a transparency to it, so it fits like this. Now check this out. One more really cool thing. I'm going to select the video, and there's these things called filters. Let me click on one. With filters, you could apply these effect filters. Okay, check this out. I'm going to apply, for example, a crop. So if I crop this, I could basically fit this a little bit better. So I'm going to crop 300 from the left. I'm going to crop 300 from the right. I'm right in the center, makes this more of a square. Okay, I'm going to close this. And now if I stretch myself a little bit, I could fit myself right in this box a lot better, right? So let's say I was having a conversation with someone else. Again, I could add their feed. Let's say they had a different camera set up for them, and they would be over there, okay? And this is a Photoshop file, so I could open up Photoshop or get a free trial, and I could basically change these titles, or this is not my name, so I would need to change these inside of Photoshop. And then this just saw the Photoshop file. I didn't have to save it as a specific type of image. It has the transparency. So the Photoshop, if I'm a crop. So if I crop this, I could basically fit this a little bit better. So I'm going to crop 300 from the left. I'm going to crop 300 from the right. I'm right in the center, makes this more of a square. Okay, I'm going to close this. And now if I stretch myself a little bit, I could fit myself right in this box a lot better, right? So let's say I was having a conversation with someone else. Again, I could add their feed. Let's say they had a different camera set up for them, and they would be over there, okay? And this is a Photoshop file, so I could open up Photoshop or get a free trial, and I could basically change these titles, or this is not my name, so I would need to change these inside of Photoshop. And then this just saw the Photoshop file. I didn't have to save it as plays as an image, so I got another ad, an MP4 file. So this is going live yet. This is what's live. But if I press transition here, for example, as here, things playing, I'm going to transfer to record that. Okay, so let me go to YouTube. It's hidden, but you're going to show you the record, how long you've been recording, and your CPU usage and your frames per second higher. So obviously related to streaming here. Now inside, and it's just plugged in.
Hi everyone, Kevin here. Today I want to show you how you can both get and also use OBS. First off, what is OBS? It's an extremely powerful and also versatile screen recorder, and you could use it to stream to services like Twitch, YouTube, and also Facebook. In fact, I use it to record all of my videos on this channel. Best of all, it's entirely free and it's also open source. All right, let's jump on the computer, and first off, let's see how we can get OBS. Here I am on my PC, and first off, I want to show you it's kind of like the movie I record, drop you on a screen that looks like this. For those of you who are wondering, well, how am I recording this video today? Well, of course, I'm using OBS. I'm using OBS to record OBS. You can launch multiple instances of the app. It's kind of like the movie Inception. Now, right now, we simply have a black screen. How do we get started? By far, the easiest way to get going with OBS is to go up to the top menus, click on Tools, and then let's click on the Auto Configuration Wizard. This opens up the Auto Configuration Wizard, and here we have a choice to make. You need to decide what exactly you want to use OBS for. You can use it for streaming, for screen recording, or you could use it as a virtual camera. With the streaming option, if you select this, it's going to go through and have you select the service provider. So whether you're using Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and then it'll also help you identify the best bitrate. With screen recording, well, just like the name implies, you'll be able to record your screen and then you'll have a video file on your computer that you can go and edit, or you could send it to others. Lastly, there's another option for using a virtual camera. What is a virtual camera? Well, in a moment, we're going to compose a scene using OBS. With a virtual camera, you can send that scene to different video conferencing software, whether it's Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or Google Meet, or any other services, you can use a virtual camera. For this tutorial today, I'm going to optimize for recording, but just keep in mind what you see today, you can use it for streaming, and you could also use it for a virtual camera. Once you make your selection, let's click on Next. Next, we have a few more questions that we need to answer. First, we need to indicate what our base resolution is, and I would select the option that matches the resolution of your display. When you click on this drop-down list, here I see display 1, I only have one monitor, and my resolution is 2560 by 1440. I'll select this option. Next, there's a question about the frames per second that we would like to use, and we have several different options here. We could go with 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, or we could do either one but prefer either higher frames or lower frames. In general, if you're going to be recording, say, gameplay, you probably want to go with a higher frame rate. That makes it look a little bit smoother. If you're going to be recording things like your desktop or an application, you probably want to go with 30 frames per second and you'll have a little bit better resolution. So I'm going to select 30 frames per second now, but feel free to choose the value that matches what you're planning on recording. Once we make all of our selections, let's now click on Next. On the next screen, we'll see the final results of the auto configuration wizard, and this shows us the various settings that it's going to put in place for our recording. And all of this looks good, so next, let's click on Apply Settings. If you want to go back and make any modifications to the settings, you can always click on Tools again and you could run through the auto configuration wizard. Once again, this is by far the easiest way to get started. Alternatively, if you want to tweak the various settings, you can click on the File menu, click on Settings. Within Settings, click on Output, and then you can customize your streaming and your recording settings. If you want full control, you could also click on Output Mode and then click on Advanced, and you have full control over the settings of your streaming and your recording. Once again, using the auto configuration wizard is by far the easiest way to get going. Now that we've gone through the auto configuration wizard and all of our settings are in place, next we need to tell OBS what we want to record or what we want to stream. And to do that, we're going to use this real estate right here. This black rectangle area, this is referred to as the scene, and we are going to add different sources to the scene. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that this scene is called Scene, and we'll leave this name for now. However, you can also add additional scenes, you can also remove scenes, and later on we'll do that. Especially once you start getting multiple scenes, it's a good idea to rename them. First though, I want to simply get started using OBS, so let's now focus on sources and let's start adding a few simple sources. You might be wondering, what is a source? Well, let's click on the plus icon to see what types of items we can add to our scene. Here we see a list of all the different types of sources that we can add. Now, two of the ones that you'll probably most likely want to use, one of them is called display capture. What this means is, well, this is basically capturing your display or your desktop. If you're going to be playing a game, you'll likely want to click on game capture instead. This is optimized for gaming. For now though, let's click on display capture to simply capture our desktop. This opens up a prompt where we can give it a name. I'll simply leave it set to display capture. Once again, if you start adding many different sources, it helps to give it a unique name so you could identify it later on. Let's now click on OK. This opens up properties, and here I can now see my display. Down below, let's say I had multiple monitors, I can choose which display I want to focus on. I could also select whether to include my mouse cursor. Everything looks good, so I'm going to click on OK. Back on the main screen, you should see your scene start coming together. We now have the display showing up here. As a very quick aside, if you're using a laptop and you have a black screen after adding a display, go down to Windows and search for graphic settings. settings, then click into graphic settings. Here, select desktop app and then click on browse. Navigate to where OBS is on your computer. Here's the typical location where you'll find it. Next, click on the OBS 64EXE. Once you add it, you should see a new option appear within graphic settings. Click on options and you can toggle between power saving or high performance. Once you change the selection, try restarting OBS to see if your display shows up. We now have our desktop appearing here. If you're recording or streaming and you would like to include audio, we also need to add a source for your microphone or for your system audio. Let's click once again under sources on the plus icon, and at the very top of this list, there's the option for audio input capture. Let's click on this. For this one, I want this to be my microphone, so I'm going to rename it to microphone. Next, let's click on OK. On the properties screen, I can choose the device and I'm going to select my microphone. Next, let's click on OK. I can now see my microphone in the audio mixer and it is working. Here I can see that the audio is coming through. If I also want to record my system sound, I also need to add another source for that. Let's go down once again to the plus icon and this time let's go up to the audio output capture. For this, I'm going to rename it System Sound. Next, let's click on OK. Within properties, I can choose the device that I want to capture the sound from, and I'm going to select speakers or headphones and then click on OK. Now that I've added system sound, I can see both my microphone and the system sound. Now that I've added a few different sources, you could start to see the importance of making sure you give the source an easy to understand name. Especially when you start getting many different items showing up in this list, you want to know what the different items are. Next, let's focus our attention over on the audio mixer. Here, once again, we can see all of the different audio sources. You can also drag here to adjust the level. You can also mute or unmute the source, and you have some advanced audio properties here. To the right of the audio mixer, you also have scene transitions, and later on, once we add another scene, we'll come back to what you can do with this. But before we do that, let's start recording something so we can just see how OBS even works. Over on the right-hand side, we have a variety of different controls. At this point, we can start streaming to our favorite streaming service. We could also kick off a recording, and in a moment, we'll do this. We could also start our virtual camera, and there's something called studio mode. We'll come back to this a little later to see what you can do with this. Also, you could jump into settings or exit the application. For now, though, let's simply kick off a basic recording. I've now started my recording, and you can see I'm now recording my screen. So all of this will be captured. While I'm recording, I can also click on this icon to the right of stop recording, and that'll pause my recording. Once I'm ready to record again, I can unpause, and that'll once again resume the recording. Once I'm all done, I can click on stop recording. Congratulations, we have finished our first recording. If you want to watch your recording, go up to the file menu up on top and then click on the option that says show recordings. This will open up File Explorer, and here I can see a recording. Let's click on this to see how it turned out. I've now started my recording, and you can see I'm now recording now that recording looks great. The one thing you'll notice though is this is an MKV file, and an MKV file, you typically can't open that in editing software, and it's not as easy to share with others. To be able to work with this file, go up to the File menu and then click on Remux Recordings. You can click on the ellipses over here and then select the file that we just recorded. You can then click on Open, and then once you're ready to remux, click on this button that says Remux. The recording has been remuxed. Let's click on OK and then close this window. If we go back to Show Recordings in the File menu, you'll now see that we have an MP4 file. You can very easily work with this in whatever editing software that you want. Now you might be wondering, what if I just want to record directly to an MP4? That's kind of a pain to record something and then to have to go to Remux. To be able to change the default, you can go up to the File menu, then click on Settings, and then let's click on Output. Within Output, under the recording category, you can change the default recording format. And here, look, you could change it to MP4. Of course, there's a reason why OBS sets MKV as the default. Let's say that maybe you're recording a 2-hour lecture. With MP4, if let's say halfway through the lecture, your computer crashes, well, you're going to lose every single thing that you recorded up to that point. With MKV, on the other hand, if your computer crashed, let's say halfway through this lecture, everything up to the point of the crash would still be saved. So in a sense, you can think of MKV as an insurance policy. Sure, it takes an extra step where you have to go to File